welcome to the Tolleson-Mack. Today is one of my favorite podcasts. As much as I love team roping, I love rodeo and all that stuff, we really love baseball. And our special guest today is Tyler Zuber. He plays for the Cleveland Indians. Sorry, Guardians.
Say Guardians.
Had to drop that in.
I had to throw it in there. How are you, Tyler?
I'm good. How you guys?
Good, buddy. Good. We've got to spend a little time with you before the podcast, which was super cool. And I finally had to shut these guys down and be like, hey, I'm gonna run out of stories for the podcast. Like, take it easy, boys. Take it easy. So you were drafted 2017 by the Royals.
Correct.
Let's walk through these one at a time. So you were drafted 2017 by the Royals. How does that go? Like, are you somewhere? Are you at home? Are you're hanging out with everybody? And how does that go?
So some people, obviously, they have like the big draft parties, right? So like the guys that know that they're going like in the first round, second round, they have like these huge draft parties and they got TV crews and all this and that. Well, for me, I had been talking to teams since probably like October of that fall. And so now rolling into the season, I'm hearing more stuff. And now we're like a week away from the draft. I've probably heard from like 25 of the 30 clubs. And here I am thinking like, okay, like I'm looking at the schedule. I'm like, all right, I'll watch the first and second round to see if any of my friends get drafted. Like 4 or 5 of them did. So I'm looking at the schedule. I get a few texts from some teams that night saying, hey, like, how are you looking for tomorrow or possibly like Wednesday? I'm like, again, I have no leverage room. So yes is the answer.
I'm ready.
So we're rolling in and I'm like, all right, so perfect. The draft starts at 12 o'clock. So I'm going to stay up. I'm going to take I'm going to take some caffeine pills and I'm going to stay up till like 5 a.m. and I'm going to sleep all the way until 12. So my mind is just not thinking about it all morning. So I'm probably 2 or 3 hours into a sleep and all of a sudden my phone starts vibrating. It's the Reds. Like, hello. The guy's like, hey, are you good to go for today? I'm like, yeah.
I was good to go yesterday.
I mean, shoot, draft me now.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, all right, perfect. Put the phone down. All right, that one's done. I'm trying to go back to sleep. You can't tell.
But there's no way
you can't tell a 21-year-old kid that his dreams are about to come true. And now he's like, all right, now I'm trying to go back to sleep. So from 8 until 12, I've heard from probably 5 or 6 other clubs after that tell me the exact same thing. I'm like, okay, like, yes. So 12 o'clock hits, cook me some lunch. So I'm sitting on the couch. I pull the iPad up. It starts with round 3. And I'm like, okay, it should be on round 3 at 12 o'clock. It's on round 4. Like, I done missed an entire round. I was like, thank the Lord above that that my name wasn't called. So I'm talking to like 2 or 3 different clubs. And one of them's telling me, hey, if you hear anything from anyone else, call us. We'll draft you ahead of them. Yada, yada, yada. I'm like, okay, like, perfect. So
Did you just want to maybe call them and tell them that?
I should have at the time. Hey,
these guys are calling me.
By the way, all 29 teams just called. So if you don't pick me with your next pick,
is that standard, like procedure, to have that many teams call you?
It's dependent.
Yeah.
Like, it's all dependent, like, on their wants.
Yeah.
What do they see in you? What do they like of you?
That must make you feel really good, right?
I was very fortunate that I had like a really good year and like really good numbers and stuff wise. That was like, I felt wanted.
Yeah.
So 25 teams want me. I was like, I don't care who calls me, who picks me, just somebody.
Yeah.
So the Royals called me in the 4th round and said, hey, we're kind of looking at, after the break, picking you. My mind immediately went black. So like, I'm not going to call any other team. I'm like, okay, like I'm sitting by my phone. So of course I call my dad. He took that as they're picking me that round. So he comes in with his lights on his police car and he comes in and he's like, what happened? What happened? I was like, well, it didn't happen. I said, it said they're thinking about like after the lunch break. So he goes back to work. He's like,
and he's a cop, right?
Yeah, he's a police officer. So like he just can't he can't just say, hold on, city. Like, I know I got to keep you guys safe and whatnot, but my son's about to get drafted, so stop all crime.
Yeah.
So he goes back and kind of like he's really slowly driving around the neighborhood and whatnot. So
your neighborhood was the safest neighborhood that day, probably in all of Arkansas.
Easily. So the 5th round comes, the Royals call again, and then they're like, "Hey, we're thinking next round, next 5th or 6th or 7th round." So I call him. Here he comes back. We have the moment. Then my name gets called in the 6th round. We're all taking videos and pictures. If the thing lasted a minute and 30 seconds, I only got like a minute and 20 in before all of our phones started ringing. So that happened. And then, it was just us 3, really and truly, like, that just celebrated. And
That's
then
pretty cool.
I left in like 2 days. But there was someone from the city that wanted to throw me like a going away party. So I got to see family, friends, and whatnot at that, kind of like a, all right, beat it nerd type moment. So it was pretty cool. But I say all that to say I didn't have a big, huge party to start because I didn't know when.
Right.
And I'm not going to be the guy that's like, come on, boys, like everyone, like here's 20 guys over, and my name doesn't.
And they got to stay here for 2 days.
Because that
It's like-
happens.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
yeah,
And there's
I've
some
seen
guys.
it in the NFL draft.
That would be my luck for sure.
When guys start falling in the draft and they're like showing their party and everybody's just sitting around all sad.
I just start coughing and act like I'm getting sick, and everybody has to go home.
Just pick up your phone and just walk away.
Yeah.
At that point, it's like, I got to go walk my goldfish. I'll be right back.
My question is, that I think that would be cool. Like you said, all them teams wanted you. Like when you said you're at Arkansas, right?
Arkansas State.
Arkansas State. When you're pitching and look in the stands, you see them scouts. So, I mean, that had to be like a dream come true. To see that, like to know, like they're here for me right now. Like I got to perform.
Yeah, so my junior year was like the year I was supposed to like make a lot of money and get drafted pretty high. But that was my problem, was I was focused too much on the guys in the stands and not the guys in the dugout with me.
Oh,
And so that bit me in the butt bad. So like,
that's a very humble thing to say.
I was just gonna say that's pretty dang cool that you said
Yeah.
that.
so like I had a huge reality check at the end of the season. The coach called me in and basically was like, "Listen, a lot of guys on this team voted you to be like the worst teammate." And so obviously, like, I can either choose to like, no, that wasn't me, or I could be like, you know what, like he's right.
Yeah.
And so basically, like, I went to summer ball with the intentions of, you know what, I'm gonna get back to my better teammate ways, and then I'm gonna come back a changed man. So I did, and I was like, you know what, like if it happens, it happens. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But like, I'm not gonna worry about who's sitting up in the stands. Obviously, as things got to rolling, I wasn't worried about who was in the stands, but as I'm watching the game, I'm like, there's like 3 or 4 teams there. Like,
Yeah.
clearly ain't there for anyone else.
Yeah.
Like I could put 2 and 2 together, but I was like, you know what? Like I'm focused on the guys in the dugout. The guys in the stands, they'll make their decision, but
Yeah.
I'm savoring my last few moments with these guys in here because this could be my last time I'm ever associated with a team.
And that might help sway their decision.
Yeah.
To see what kind of a teammate you are, right?
And it very well could, because I know that that's a definite like big conversation that they have is with the coach. Like, what type of person is he? Like, 'cause they're not going to draft some D-bag. Like, they're going to draft someone that's like, is this guy going to give us problems on the field or off the field? And if the coach is like, no, like this is an A+ player, like they check that box. But obviously, you run.
Yeah, I mean that's what they say about Kaepernick, right? Like, there's all kinds of coaches around the league that say they will literally quit their job if Kaepernick comes to their team. Like, they're not going to play with that guy. He's too much of a, he's not a team player. He's too much problems on and off the field. So, I mean, them seeing you your junior year playing one way and then having a talk with a coach proves you're coachable to me.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's exactly how we'll go back to this after that. You looked in the crowd and you seen these guys. You knew deep down they're here for you. You knew. And then, to be on that high and then go to get drafted. And like you said, people think you get drafted like all your worries are gone. The getting drafted almost kind of had to humble you again to put you into the minor league system, to some of the heartaches that you were talking about that related to rodeo. Like, I mean, that was probably a wake-up call to now be in the AA system and, have to earn your way back up to the top after you were so highly recruited, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like that's what I kind of done my whole life is like I was never the biggest, I was never the strongest, but I always like worked hard enough to like put myself above like everyone's skill set level.
Yeah.
Like that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be the best on my high school team, and I was. I wanted to be the best on my college team, pitching wise, and I was. I wanted to be the best in our league, and I feel as if like personally, like I feel as if I was one of the best pitchers in the league. and I wanted to be one of the best in the southern part of the U.S. And I feel like I was. Like I feel like I was one of the best players in the country, and I just wanted to work to achieve that goal. And then obviously when you get drafted, it's like I ain't the best anymore.
Yeah.
That guy right there was the best in the Northeast. That guy right there is the best in the Dominican Republic. That guy right there is the best in Venezuela. It's like now you have not just the U.S., now you're talking the entire world.
Yes.
And so now that's another like, all right, what I did got me here, but now what do I need to do to outwork the world?
Like Caesar said, like, he dominated Arizona when he was, little coming up, but he said when he was a big test when he went to Texas, because Texas, that's where all the sharks are at, and kind of like same story,
For sure. And like you were talking about how you got to love it. And
You have to.
That level, especially, you're going to miss a lot of sleep for sure. Maybe a few parties, a lot of going out. It's dedicated.
It's a full-time job. It's 8 months out of the year. And the 4 months that you don't is, October, November, December, and January, which is, what are people doing during those months? We're cuddled up next to a fire.
Oh, yeah.
But during the springtime, whenever everyone's like, man, I'm going to the beach, I'm going to the lake, or summertime, like, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm on a bus traveling 12 hours to go stay in a Motel 6 and make $200 every 2 weeks. That's what I'm doing.
So let's talk about that. How does it happen? You get drafted in the 6th round, 2017, then you go to the minors?
Yeah, you go straight to the minor leagues. It's happened like very rarely. Like it doesn't happen often where you get drafted and immediately go to the big leagues. I can think of like 2 guys off the top of my head, but 99% of the time you get drafted, you go straight to the minors. And now whether or not you're there for 1 year or 20 years, like that's completely on the player.
When you say go to the minors, does it all the way down to single A? Or it just
Whenever I
depends
got
on your
drafted,
skill set?
It was like rookie ball,
Okay.
low A, high, double A, triple A.
Okay.
Depending on like first round college pitcher that's like excelled in like the best league, probably going to send them to high or low A. Like going to send him to a little bit, like he's better than rookie ball. Like he's a little bit more advanced. So we're sending him to a higher level.
Yeah.
Like for example,
but once the Royals draft you, it's up to them where they send you.
Correct. Like they have an idea, kind of like
they already know,
skill. Like his skill set is this already. But for me, it was like I think they put everybody in the draft class in rookie ball, and then from there, it's like you either prove to us that you're too good for this league, or you prove to us that we might need to hold you here for next year too. So it's like one of those things, and I was fortunate enough to where I was like, you know what, like. I felt as if I outperformed the league, so then I got called up there at the end of the season to that low A.
And we talked a little bit before we got on air, but how does that work? So you get a check every week?
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
Yeah, like the 15th and the 30th.
And what was your big baller check in the
$200.
$200. So
like you had absolutely no bills. I mean, I'm saying not your personal, but I'm just saying as like they put you in the room and your food was everything and transportation. I mean, you had no bills while you were there, right?
The only bills I had was in rookie ball. The only bills I had was like what lunch I wanted to eat, lunch or like post game. Like, say I didn't like the spread that they had at the field, like, and I wanted McDonald's cheeseburger. I go to McDonald's, like I got to pay for that.
Yeah,
but that's it.
They took care of it. I mean,
but everybody thought you were a pro baseball player, so you're balling out.
Oh yeah, everyone thinks that you're a multimillionaire as soon as your name gets called, but really and truly, reality hits you in the face, and you're like, I know I'm not. Like y'all might think I am, but I can tell you this paycheck, like it says on there you owe $200.
Right, exactly.
So like a rodeo check, huh?
Man.
Yeah. So you were there from 2017 to 22.
Mm-hmm.
Then you came to our team, played for the Diamondbacks for a year.
Yeah, I was in AAA with them for 2 months, and then I got released in July. So I had shoulder surgery in my shoulder actually started hurting in 2021. Pitched on it all year. It was one of those things. It was like I'd wake me up in the middle of the night hurting. Like it was affecting everything. But like, I'm not one to say, hey, like my performance is bad because I'm hurt. Like I wasn't raised like that.
And you're living your dream. I mean, that's got to be hard to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be like, yeah, I just gave up a 2-run home run. But, like, in reality, like, my shoulder did hurt. But, like, I'm not going to be the one to be like, man, like, I'm hurting. It's like now you're looked at like a soft person. So, like, that's just not me. It got to the point where, so I got married that off season in 2022. My wife, she asked me to hand her a gallon of water. And so I go to slide it across the table to hand it to her, and my shoulder locked up, and I couldn't move it. And I thought, this isn't good. So I literally have to hit it as hard as I possibly can to get it out. I start throwing bullpens again. I'm 82 to 83. I'm normally mid-90s, and that's max effort. And so now I'm thinking, I got to finally say something. So I say something. We start some rehab and whatnot. And then now we are to around May. I'd had an MRI and they said everything was fine. There's just some inflammation and like some posture type stuff. So May comes along again, playing catch a little bit further, starting to play catch, even like more intent, starts hurting again. Sleeping starting to suck again. Go get another MRI to realize there's some tearing. So then I fly down to Texas to go see like a doctor. And he said, you can either throw through it, you can take some time off, or you can take a shot, like a anti-inflammatory shot, or you can have surgery. I said, well, doctor, I tried 3 of the 4. Looks like I'm gonna need surgery. So we do surgery. So now we're looking in like October. I'm finally playing catch again after rehab. Finally feels great again. I get called like saying, hey, like we're gonna take you off the roster, but we want you to still be here. I'm like, okay, like to be expected. I knew it was coming. We're now like, I go and play catch the next day. I get a phone call from the assistant GM, and he said, call me as soon as possible. So here I am thinking like something bad's done happened. Like he's breaking the news to me. He calls me and he says, good news and bad news. And I said, okay. He said, well, bad news is you're no longer a Royal. And I said, well, what in the world could the good news be? And he said, good news is Arizona just picked you up. So I'm like, sick. Like, this is amazing. So I go to Arizona. I was there for a month, and then they called me. I was actually leaving on my honeymoon in a few hours, and they called me and said, hey, we're taking you off the roster. And I said, well, listen, don't bother calling me if something, like if I clear waivers again and I stay with you guys. I said, only call me if something happens. Like if some other team picks me up, then call me. So obviously they didn't call me. Mm-hmm. So I come back, rehab with them. Everything's going smooth with them, throwing hard again and like my lives and whatnot in Arizona. I report to Reno, Nevada, which if you've ever been to Reno, yeah.
That's what we have to say
Reno
about
911.
Reno right there. Reno rodeo.
Reno a lot.
He knows Reno a lot.
Yeah.
Reno is, Reno.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the episode of The Walking Dead, if you ever seen The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
So pitched there for 2 months. Just honestly, at this point, I'm just trying to get my feet wet again. Like I hadn't pitched in 15 months, it was actually 18 months. Finally made it back, and then I get called and told, hey, we're releasing you to let you explore other options. So I'm thinking, crap, like here we go again. Go back to Arizona where we just bought our home. Again, crickets for the next 9 months. And then finally Cleveland calls. So I'm like, you know what? Everything happens for a reason.
Was that call almost as good as your draft call? The 9-month wait?
I think it was better.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, because you had to dig back. I mean, you had to dig deep and put in the work to get back.
I mean, there was some long talks that we had that was like, you know what? I don't like this is tough. A lot of job applications filled out but never submitted. There was a lot of like, you know what, like maybe I need to start like looking into doing something else. Started calling like old coaches just to see like, hey, like, is there any coaching gigs that like you guys might know about? Because I was thinking, like, I mean, at the time I was like, I have major league experience. I'm throwing 95, 96 again. Like, who doesn't want me? Like, somebody's got to want me. And then the reality hit me in the face when it's like no one wanted me. I was like, you know what? Like, maybe I'm not what I used to be. Maybe no one wants me.
And that's a tough pill to swallow. I mean, to come to that realization, in your own mind, like, it's, I feel like sometimes people go too long, and it hurts what
Chuck
they've
Liddell.
accomplished. Yeah, it was prime example.
Chuck Liddell.
Number one example.
Like, he could have went out on top,
yeah,
been done, and he just went too long and took too many knockouts.
Like Caesar, now I always, he don't brag on himself. I brag on him all the time, but like, now he's still making a living with his rope, just in a different way by teaching people. You probably still, eventually make some money with the ball and a bat. Teaching people. So
Savannah Bananas,
and that's what's good though, is you got all that because of your credentials. What you've accomplished, and that's what's gonna, you'll be fine.
Yeah, it'd be like the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball.
That's what they are. Dude.
The guy in the stilts, you gotta give that guy some credit, man.
Yeah. Hey,
I like that guy.
He pitches.
Yeah.
Yeah, that dude on the stilts pitches.
Talk about a steep angle.
Yeah.
That's coming from the sky.
A little more whip, you think, on it?
Yeah.
From up
He
there?
ain't got no whip, I can tell you that much.
Dude, that whole thing is just crazy. I don't know. I was sitting there watching him play, and I was texting Anthony pictures, saying this is his retirement. And the one thing I can say about the whole Savannah Bananas experience thing is they're so interactive with the crowd.
Yeah,
like,
cool.
the kids run down to the front and they just bring them on the field and they play catch with them.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're cool. They come, they sign everything. They do everything. And really, like, from somebody who likes to watch the game of baseball, I'd like to watch baseball, right? I think it's just an awesome sport.
The funnest.
Yeah. And they play really good baseball,
I mean, so one of the guys actually is a former, I didn't play with him, but he was like a level or two always below me, but he was with the Royals organization. He was a pitcher.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of them have like played
minor league ball,
potentially professional baseball. And I know they've even brought, like, Jake Peavy went and pitched for him, like a Gold Glove, like World's. I think he's
somebody
a World
else,
Series winner.
Johnny Damon.
Johnny Damon. Yeah, Johnny Damon.
John Cena was there.
Cena. I was just gonna say John.
They're like,
Cena.
wow, like, look at that jersey floating. Like, there's
And
no one there.
And they're selling out these places. So there was 12,000 seats available to the one that I went to. They sold it out 3 nights in a row, and we had to be in a lottery to get my tickets. They had to choose you from a lottery, and then the tickets are first come first serve. So it's literally a fist fight to get in here to watch these guys.
It's crazy.
It's wild that this guy has put that together.
Really
so
cool.
And it's bringing a lot of attention to baseball.
Yeah,
it
helps.
It's fun.
It all helps.
It's fun.
If you've ever read the story on the guy that started the Savannah Bananas, like, that is a definition of a grinder.
Oh man, you ain't lying.
He's sleeping in a studio apartment.
Yeah.
Basically, him and his wife, and he sold their house and said, you know what, this is what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm. And he still is the announcer.
Oh yeah,
He's still the guy that comes
That's
out
cool.
and announces.
It's very impressive. Like, it's entertaining for sure, but to say that I'm a Savannah Banana, I just don't know if
Party animal, maybe.
that, or I'd be like the dancing umpire or something.
There you go, the dancing umpire. Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit about like some of the minor league stuff, because me and Brandon were talking to you before Caesar got here, and both of us picked up on minor league travel and the way you guys have to grind it out. Reminds me so much of the stories he tells me of the like rodeo road. I mean, I think there's so much connection there.
Yeah, I mean, before COVID happened, it was like the true definition of like a grinder type schedule. I mean, you would play sometimes 14 to 17 games in a row, and you go 3 games at home, and then you go 3 games 8 hours away. So right after your 3rd game at home, you load up on a bus, you bus all the way there. You play 3 or 4 games there after you getting in at 3 a.m. And also, these people that show up are like, well, why in the world is that person not jogging? Or like, why is he jogging? Or why is he lollygagging around? It's like, you realize that we just played 9 straight games. We got in at 4 a.m. We had an 11 o'clock wake-up call. And you want me to sign an autograph for your 10-year-old kid that hadn't stopped asking for a ball for the last 47 hours? Like, I just need you to take a minute and realize what I've been through for the last 9 days.
Right.
And then not to mention, they want like a promotional schedule. So they want a fireworks night on Friday night at 7, but on Saturday you have a 7:00 game 12 hours away. So game gets through at 10, you load up on the bus at 11, 12 hours later, that's 11 a.m. that you
got
arrive.
good at sleeping on the bus.
You have to.
Yeah.
You got good at performing tired.
You have to. I mean, caffeine is your best friend. And then like you lose track of like the days of the week. You forget completely, like your entire schedule, like Monday through Sunday schedule is just gone out the window. Now you look at the next off day I have is in 14 days, and that is the 17th. Like that's it. Like that's the only thing so you're texting all your friends like, hey man, I got an off day. Like, what are you doing? It's like, dude, I got to work. Like I got an 8 to 5. It's like, oh, it's a Wednesday. Like crap, I completely forgot about that. So like that kind of stuff, like minimal pay, like just long hours. It's just like you really have to like you said, you really have to truly love what you do, because the aspect of it, talking to like a normal person, it sucks. Like it sucks. Now the schedules are a whole lot better. You got 6 games straight at one place with a Monday off day in the minor league, so it's nice.
So I got kind of a hard question for you, and then we're gonna go to a break. When you were sitting there and no teams were calling you after you had your shoulder problem before Cleveland called you, would you have went back to the minors to play ball?
I'm in the minors now.
I mean, would you go back to the grinder league instead of not playing ball? Would you rather just play in the bus leagues or whatever? You know what I mean?
100%.
100%.
I would have went back. I would have, if they said, listen, you are the same age that you're in now, but you have to go back 5 years to whenever you were playing minor league ball and you were taking bus trips and you had 20 games in a row. There was no off day in sight. 100%.
That's awesome.
Because the second that it gets taken away from you, you realize how much you miss it, and you realize like I'm still good. Like I can keep playing. Like here, let me come do it. And then the decision maker says, "No, we're good."
Yeah.
Whenever they say that, it's like,
and it's out of your hands.
Yeah, when it's out of your hands, but you're like, I can do this. It's like, oh gosh, like I am in trouble. Yeah. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Man, on that note, let's take a break. Fill these cups up, and we'll get back. And we're going to have Caesar and Tyler talk about that connection between I mean, these are the same stories I'm hearing from the rodeo guys. So we'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to the Tolleson-Mack podcast. As you can tell, we're all laughing because the shit that goes on behind the scenes is way better than the stuff we put on the front. But we'll get some good stuff in the front, too. The second half of the podcast is brought to you by the Cleveland Guardians.
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
that's our new team.
That's our new team. You'll find us over there 1:00 on Monday watching a little ball.
Yep.
As promised, before we went to the break, I said I'm going to kind of turn this over to Caesar a little bit, and you guys talk the listeners through on the comparisons of maybe playing that minor league ball in rodeo and stuff like that. So
I'm going to start off with you mentioned earlier you have a little circle, and you married a horse girl, horse lady. That's probably you got to probably step out of your circle just a little bit. Maybe your line of work is in the grass, and her line of work is
in the dirt. Yeah, with a very large animal that at any point could turn on you and hurt you.
He's just a 1,200-pound teddy bear is all he is.
Yeah, that's what she says too. Until I go and pet him, and he like jerks back, and he's trying to nip at me. Yeah,
they hurt you on accident.
Yeah,
they don't mean to, but they can hurt you.
Yeah, no, I had to step out, and I didn't really know that she dealt much with horses for like the first couple weeks to a month. I didn't really know much about it, and then she started talking about like horses and whatnot. I was like, "You ride?" She's like, "Yeah, I actually own some." So then I went over to her house, and I saw her horses and whatever, and I was like, "Oh, like you were for real." And then she's like, "Yeah, like look at all these awards," and I'm not kidding you. It was like, oh my gosh, they could fill up this room with all their trophies. And I thought, how long you been riding for? Like a couple weeks? And she's like, no, ever since I was knee high to a grasshopper. I'm like,
baby, yeah.
Oh Lord have mercy. She said, well, she said, if we get married and we do all this, I want our kids at some point, like they're going to ride horse. I'm like, I looked over at her dad, and he was like, expensive.
I was just thinking,
You said when your favorite movies is on Survivor. It sounds like that little skit where they did right there, where they're talking about horses and stuff. That's kind of the same deal right there.
Oh yeah,
Horses.
Exactly.
They cost this much. Holy cow!
Yeah,
Especially
exactly.
the ones you're dealing with.
Yeah, the guy's online like looking at him. He's like, I think I know exactly the gift I'm gonna get her. I'm gonna get her an Arabian horse. He said, how much that one costs? And he said, whatever. He said, like, that's probably a $50,000 horse. He said, they cost that much money?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of the whole movie. I thought it was hilarious right there. But yeah, like, and just kind of going back to the traveling stuff, rodeo guys, we travel pretty hard. We live in our vehicles, and we're probably home, 2-3 months out of the whole year. But it starts October, the end. But pretty much for the main guys, they're starting January 1st and going all the way to October 1st.
Golly.
And it's pretty right now. I was there at a big roping they had yesterday, the Mike Servey Invitational. Derek Begay and Coulter Todd, two of the headers that I've had a lot of success with. They're roping together this year. Last year they did really good, but they were in San Antonio, I believe Monday. They drove all night to Tucson to rope in the slack Tuesday. They drove to Casa Grande, which is another hour and a half, hour and 45 north, to rope again and another roping. Wednesday. The roping didn't get done I didn't get to bed till midnight. They probably did the same thing, but then they got up at 8 to rope, and I guess they got to sleep in a little bit. They got to get up at 8, but then they roped and roping again all day yesterday. And then they loaded up in the rig and driving all the way back to San Antonio to rope in the semifinals over there.
Good
and
gosh.
It's yeah.
Because these ropings, rodeos he's talking about, it's like they'll do like fastest on 3 steers. So you don't rope all 3 steers the same day. It goes like in brackets or a couple of days and stuff. So
San Antonio's 2-3 weeks long, so you're gonna be there, and then you're gonna find out that you made it back. So you're gonna have to reschedule your.
So do you go to it's like you said he went to San Antonio to Tucson. Is he just like taking like a little break in between and just like keep practicing? Is that, or is the Tucson to get back to going to San Antonio?
Tucson is one of the main rodeos for the year. It's going to pay, probably this year it's going to pay around $7,000, but San Antonio is one of the major stops for the winter tour. It's going to pay around $25,000 to win it. And so they're trying to win every dollar they can. It's the finals has been separated by less than $3 before. To make the NFR before, yeah.
Yeah, and that's how they keep
Dakota Curtis
track
yeah.
of how you get in. Is how much money you win in 75 rodeos.
So what he means by Tucson is they're competing at multiple rodeos at the same time.
Oh,
So he left
okay.
San
So I didn't know if it was like San Antonio happens like the 1st through the 15th. So I'm gonna go on the 1st, and then I don't rope again in San Antonio until the 7th. So I'm just gonna go find all these local ones. No, so he's entering in the San Antonio and the Tucson one.
Yeah, and in the middle of the 4th of July.
That's way worse than what I did.
The hardcore season, the middle of the 4th of July, we're gonna be going to 12 to 14 rodeos in 1 week.
1 week.
We're gonna be going rope 1 rodeo,
and like this,
maybe
across
2
the
days.
country.
Yeah. We're gonna start off and go maybe to Pecos, Texas, to Prescott, Arizona, to St. Paul, Oregon, Molalla, Oregon. Yeah, and then
from Arizona.
Yeah,
and make it in one night because you can
either drive or fly, and you'll have say a partnership with Team Ropers. We'll have 2 rigs going. I'll have my rig with a 4-horse trailer in a truck, and I'm gonna send a driver to a rodeo, say in Ogden, Utah. That there's some rodeos going that way. And another rig is going to go to St. Paul, Oregon, and Molalla, Oregon. And from the rig that's going to go to Utah is going to go to Montana for Livingston and Red Bluff. And this rig is going to stay over here in this little circle in the northwest. This rig is going to stay up north in Montana. But we all started in Pecos, Texas. And then we went to Prescott, Arizona, and that's when our rig split up after that.
And they fly around catching their horses, basically, so they can go rodeo.
And another aspect about this thing is, so say they'll compete at, say, a random rodeo over here, and their time, say, just for instance, it's 4-2. Well, it might not hold up. So they might not say, well, they're not going to win it, can't have no chance, and then they just scrap that rodeo. Then they, it's a big game.
So if you realize, Like,
Yeah,
like I'm not gonna make it in that one.
So
like, I'm out.
Or like what Caesar was saying, from San Antonio to Tucson to Casa Grande. So those guys left San Antonio, drove all night, San Antonio, Texas to Tucson.
Mm-hmm.
If they get to Tucson and didn't do any good, that drive from San Antonio to Tucson.
No, that's what happened.
Yeah,
They went to San Antonio. They made it back to the semifinals. They won probably $5,000, $6,000 out of their set. Maybe a little less, but right around there. They drove to Tucson hoping they're going to do good. They drew a steer that run, no good. They had no chance really because there's 140 teams entered over there.
So basically, they
best teams in the world are.
So they just drove for the night for nothing.
For nothing, and it's a $500 entry fee too to enter there.
So they paid $500 to enter in it, and then not to mention all the gas, the horse feed.
And then they didn't do good at Tucson. Okay, so they went to Casa Grande. They roped at a jackpot the first day, and they had probably, I think it was maybe $600 in fees. They entered twice. They didn't do any good over there. So the next morning, Derek and Coulter entered. So they can enter at these jackpots. It's like side money. It's fast money because we make it in one day. Rodeos, you sometimes have to wait 2-3 weeks to let it finish up to figure out where you ended up. But these guys, they went to Casa Grande. They roped $1,500 to enter that roping. You go 3 times. They roped with 2 different partners, or they roped 3 times, 3 different partners there. $1,500 to enter that. They didn't win no money there. So they're going to load up now, and we're going to drive back to San Antonio, hopefully win that $25,000 pot of gold over there. Because if you win $25,000 there, that sets up your winner. It kind of gets everything where you're right on track to.
And you just made your money back.
Pretty much.
With like a couple dollars left.
There's rodeos in Texas and jackpots and all that stuff going on at the same time. They have the American kind of going on where they pay $100,000. And Coulter and Derek are in that rodeo too. So from San Antonio, they're probably going to drive to Fort Worth and rope in the American.
But all of these numbers that everybody says, oh, it's $100,000 it pays over here, $25,000 it pays over here. But Tucson pays $7,000 and they didn't have no luck there because they drew a bad steer. So it's like these guys in pro rodeo, they have to throw a strike every pitch.
Yeah.
Like if they want to get paid.
Because the reason
you gotta ball.
You gotta be on your A game.
Because
no matter what.
The reason why they left San Antonio and came out here and tested their luck, because if they would have hit it good over there in Tucson, then if they would have hit it good at the Survey, and I mean,
Survey paid $20,000 a man to win that one, and then it paid $3,000 to win last hole. So like that could pay for a little bit of fuel or something.
Because those dollars, because it's called, like he says, a jackpot. That's money that they win that day. Because some of these rodeos might take 2 weeks, so they'll be up in the first set. They'll rope their time. If their time holds up all the way till the 2 weeks is up, then they get paid. But it might not. You know what I mean? So they have to sweat it out.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
I'll put these guys as gambling skills against anyone.
Yeah, I
mean the balls it takes. I mean they're gambling.
Yesterday and like all these steers that we're roping are the toughest steers. Like they're
the Mike Survey, the roping they're talking about. The Mike Survey is the premier jackpot every single year in Arizona. So it's the best of the best cattle, the best arena, the best flaggers, the toughest
cattle, the toughest competition.
The best.
But it's like you said earlier too, as we were talking, like the person riding the horse, that's a brain. The other person,
right,
that's another brain. The 2 horses, that's 2 other brains, and then the steer, that's another brain. Right. You got to have 5 brains all operating on the same wavelength at the exact same time, at the exact same moment for everything to flow good. And if one person's off, I mean,
and what's it take to win the Survey?
There was
5-second run.
There was 260 teams entered in the Mike Survey. The guys averaged right around 6 seconds around 5 headers. It was a 5 steer, and from first place to 8th place was separated by less than 2 seconds.
So 3 to 5 seconds. Like
they were catching these steers right in the 6 second mark every single run.
So when he says
pretty
5
much
steers,
when you say 2 seconds, are you saying like 2.00?
No,
or are you saying
5 seconds? There are 5 seconds, 6 seconds on the steer.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And like
what I mean.
It was an extreme. Like watching that, I was like, "Jeez, man, this."
But that time for you,
I was kind of I was the cow boss, so I got to watch every steer run, making sure if there was a soft one, like a good one, that he had to come off.
So
We
what you
had
but,
nothing but strong ones out there.
but when you did it, you probably had what 3 or 4 seconds left to spare.
What's that? The
Yeah,
four?
according to all these other guys.
Man,
No, it's
I was just kind of
one of the
hanging with
best in the
those
world.
sharks, man. Like these guys are really, really good. I slowed down from to be closer to the family and stuff because, like I said, you're gone and you're from. So if I was rodeoing, I would not be here right now. Like I
'Cause you'd
would
be out
be
on
in
tour.
Texas, you know, because they got
exactly.
big rodeos in Texas. Texas is known for rodeos. Like they'll have 2 or 3 rodeos a week, sometimes one every day out there, especially in the summertime.
I would say like what you're describing sounds a lot like rock stars. Because you basically go and like you do like your little concert in Minneapolis, and then right after you finish up, you basically load up on your bus and you're driving to New York to perform for 2 nights there. After that, you got to drive all the way down to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got to go to Florida. Then you got to go to Kentucky.
The difference is when the rock star leaves Myrtle Beach, he leaves with the check.
Right.
Guaranteed check.
Because he's the
It's
act.
you're right.
Yeah.
'Cause
Right.
he's the act.
But another thing, like, say he wants it to be sold out.
Mhm.
Like,
It's
but
not-
but
yeah,
that,
you're right.
but you also got to think like how much promoting is going into
Mhm.
that to get him to possibly be sold out.
So I agree. And one thing I don't think, I mean, this is just from like an amateur team roper side. One thing that doesn't get talked about enough is like say the major leagues, right? There's what's the age in major leagues? Like you're playing from your 20.
I think like the youngest was like, I mean, you see guys up there that are like 19, 20 years old.
Okay.
Like, so you see 19 to 20, and then I think Verlander.
38.
I think he might be the oldest at 40.
Okay, at
I
40.
think.
So there's a 20-year, call it a 20-year gap. You go to some of these premier jackpots, and there's guys that were at the NFR in the 80s.
Walt Woodard was
Walt
there.
Woodard.
He was
Oh,
a 2-time
no,
world
so-
champion.
Oh.
He's
So what I'm-
pushing his 70s, and he's still a gamer, dude.
So what I'm
He's
saying
still a
is these
badass.
sharks are old sharks, and they're
Great
still
whites.
swimming in the water, and they will come get your ass.
And let me explain it to about the survey real quick. When he said it was a 5 steer, right? So you had to rope it on 5 steers. So if you miss any one of those steers, you're out of the average. You know what I mean? So it started with 200 and whatever teams.
260 teams.
And then so I think after the 4th steer, I think there was only like 80 teams that have caught all their.
So you have to go 5 for 5.
Yes.
If you miss one,
Yes.
you miss your first one.
done.
See,
You're done.
Yeah.
Out of
$500. See you later.
You see what I mean? Like you go for go round stuff like that, but I'm saying like,
but like you could just keep practicing, but it's like you ain't going for real anymore.
no, you don't even get to rope
No, you
anymore.
don't get
You're out of the rope.
You get
now.
to watch.
So if you're the first rider of the day, the first one,
Bye, Felicia.
and I go and I yeet it and I
Yep.
miss,
out of there.
Bye bye.
Thank
You're
you.
done.
for
I
your
just
time.
wasted my time, my practice, all that stuff to
Yeah.
embarrass myself.
Yeah.
So you got to be on your A game.
Fuck yeah.
Like
Man.
from jump.
And
Yeah.
like this, you're not dealing with the competition. I feel like anymore. Like you're dealing with the stock and like these steers that I was working yesterday were so strong, man. They're kind of little bitty guys, and you would think they're cute little thing, but they were
And
monsters.
they're
Like,
having
run
somebody like him do it because he was the guy that used to rope on the backside, right? So he's going to be able to say, oh yeah, this one fits, that one doesn't fit. Yeah,
Yeah.
bring those two.
So like the steers too that you're roping, are you providing these steers?
No, sir. They were provided by Roping Company from Sholo and
So, like, these-
Snowflake, Arizona. They
So
were raised.
these places, like, you don't know if you're gonna get like, are they picked at random, or are you going over there and like picking your crop?
They gathered up a whole bunch of cattle, a couple hundred head, and they withered the way down to 118 steers that could fit on the truck.
Mm-hmm.
They bring a truckload of steers, and that's what they took over there. But the guy, Dalen Frost, part of the Roping Company, he was telling me that when he was gathering these steers, they pull them off their mom and they put them in a big pasture. It was like a big square, 3 mile long square. Pens are in one corner, and he said when they drove in the trucks there, the cattle headed to the very far end of the property at a run. So they got their horses, gathered up, and the cowboys, they went and got around the herd. Once they got to the back end of the property, they started bringing them back, but it was at a dead run. Them suckers never stopped running. And they went right to the pens, and they kind of sorted out. And then there's a breaking in process where they gotta teach them how to go through the alleyways and teach them how to handle a little bit the the runs. You know, they rope them. They show them the whole thing. They got to show them the back end, and then it's a process to do all this stuff. It takes. We've done it over here several times.
Brandon's provided the cattle for survey before.
It takes about a week to do it properly, you know.
But I'm saying like at these events, like you said, there was 118 cattle provided.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know, or do you know which 5 you're going for?
No, sir. They're random draw running them up there.
So they're
at
just
a pro rodeo, you do. They'll draw at a pro rodeo.
And it'll have an ear tag like those ones we were looking out there that have an ear tag number. Goes on.
At a pro rodeo, they'll draw you stock.
Will you practice on that steer?
No, sir.
Never.
No.
So your first time that you rope is the first time the lights basically come on.
Absolutely.
So that's the first time.
All these rodeos, you don't really know them unless you get to go, say, at a rodeo like Tucson.
Mm-hmm.
They have 140 contestants there. And so they bring half enough. So they bring 70 head. Mm-hmm. And so the first 70 guys are going to run these steers that have no idea what the steers are going to do. And then the next 70 guys are
kind of have an idea of which one does which. And it's like
a lot of these guys got videos and stuff. So if they call it the reruns, the redraws. If you're in the reruns, you know exactly what your steer does. So the first few guys, like they can do really good and feel good about it, but they might not. They're only taking 12 back to the short go, which is on Sunday at Tucson. It's a whole week-long rodeo. It's actually 9 days long, and they run 140 contestants throughout the week there, and they're whittling it way down to 12 of the best teams that week to the short go, and they're only paying 8 holes, so you can go the whole week and go through there and make the short go, not win a check, and then you make the short go and miss. And you had to be there all week.
Just to realize.
Just to not win nothing.
The one thing I think it's important that I need to explain to this too is when he said he was the cattle boss yesterday. So when he's at the bottom end and he's watching those steers run, his job and the guy that brought the steers there is to make sure that they're all equal. So you don't want one that's real fast and one that's real slow. You know what I mean? You want to give the cows, all the steers need to be pretty much, if they're all fast, they all need to be fast. You know what I'm saying? So that's a very important job, you know what I mean? Because you could take somebody out of the rope, and if you had,
you can screw somebody
big time. So I provided cattle for these events, and so it goes on level. Remember I told you earlier about levels. So my level, I'm a low level. So my cattle aren't going to be the same as his cattle. My cattle are going to be slower, more easier to rope type cattle, and his cattle are going to be harder. So there's a lot to this.
My cattle are fresh off the ranch. Like they just barely gathered all the steers that the open guys usually rope.
They ain't even broken in.
Yeah, they're like Conor McGregor's over there. They're ready to beat some ass. You know what I mean? Like they're mean little shits. And then in Brandon's level, they've usually been roped for about a year or so, and they've been handled, and so
they know what they're doing.
They kind of know the deal.
The steers yesterday, they don't know.
But you still got to catch them.
Yeah. Right. The breaking in process is really important because when you're having these events, we're talking sometimes up to 1,000 teams will be at some of these amateur ropings. Like for a truck, there'll be 1,000 teams. So you can't have cattle in that arena that don't know their job. They need to know after they get roped, they have to run to the bottom end and get out of the arena. You can't have a shit show back there, and they don't want to go. So it's a lot of it's if you break it down, it's very interesting how it works.
You know what I was talking about earlier when I was like talking about how blessed I am to do what I do. I'm gonna double down on that again. I don't think I'd choose anything else. Listening to that's
where we're talking about the love. Like if you don't love what you're doing, you're probably like, if you don't love rodeo, you're not gonna do.
Maybe what happened to Derek and Coulter, so they drive from San Antonio to Tucson, because I mean I know Derek, and Derek's probably one of the best, if not the best cowboy, like working ranch cowboy to ever come out of the state of Arizona. And that's saying a lot because our cowboys are better than anybody in the United States. So if Derek maybe could have got a word on that steer, like, hey, he ran yesterday, or he ran a couple days ago, and this sumbitch breaks, Derek Begay ain't gonna miss him.
He knows what he's gonna do.
He knows what he's gonna do. So, like what Caesar's point, it's such a gamble, because like the first set of steers, you don't know what they're gonna do. You got no idea, and you drove all the way from San Antonio.
I used to provide cattle to these events, to these pro rodeos, and some of these guys I didn't even know who they were would call me and ask me like, "What's this steer do? Steer 55?" And I'd be like, I'm an
He
amateur.
runs.
I hired guys like Caesar to come and do that process of breaking it in for me because I'm not good enough cowboy to do that. And you have to realize that. You don't want to screw up the cows. So they would call me and I'd be like, oh, he's good medium, right down the middle. You know, I'm like, I didn't know if he ran or not.
Who's the toughest batter you've ever had to go up against? There's been a few, right? It'd be like
one.
It's just like going up against the best batter every time. Like you got to have your best shit every single time.
And what happens?
But the problem with me is, or like I guess more advantage on me is, the guy that I'm facing, he's already behind the 8-ball. Because even if he is a really, really, really good hitter and he's a 300, we'll give him a 400 hitter. He still fails 6 out of 10 times. So it's still in my advantage.
And he's waiting on you to make your move.
And the second that I throw, I could deliver the worst possible pitch in the world, and he puts the best swing on it, and he hits it as hard as he possibly can, and the center fielder catches it. It don't matter. It's still a 0 for 1 in the scorebook.
Yep.
So it's still advantage me. But for you guys, like that is like all it takes is one person to mess up, and then that whole thing is just it's blown to pieces.
What's the winning percentage on average?
Man, so Caleb Driggers and Junior Nogueira were one of the best teams a couple years ago. They won a world title, but their percentage was up in like 72.
So they're 72% win percentage.
That is unheard of. If you're winning,
What's your win percentage?
Well, they don't really do that in rodeo a whole lot, but if you're winning half the time, you're doing pretty good. Say you go to 10 rodeos in a week,
and you win 5.
Win at 5 of them. Do good at 5.
Win at or win?
Win at them because they pay 6 monies to 8 monies.
Not win.
Monies.
Yeah,
So
like
you're
the
not
full
getting
players.
first. So as long as you just make $1.
You're trying to make a living.
Okay.
Like I said, the NFR, which is the Super Bowl of our game, could be separated between dollars, cents. You
Like
know what I mean?
literally
Yeah.
dollars.
So every dollar you make, you have to try to. If it's just a little rodeo, you have to try as hard as you can at that one, just like you would at a San Antonio,
Right.
where these badass rodeos.
So no matter if it's the big leagues or the minor leagues, like you're still like a big game, a big game,
Yeah.
big game or a small game, like you're giving it your all.
100%. And then shoot, then the roping yesterday, there was the horsepower. Like they're spending $200,000 on these head horses, $100,000 on these heel horses. It's ridiculous. So you got that.
Yeah.
You got
Tripling down.
got
now.
that. You got that,
Told you.
and you have to have a trailer load of the very best horses
Not one.
in the world.
You better have 2, 3 of them.
Their trailer load is what I mean by four.
What are the horses? Are they
Quarter horses.
They're quarter horses?
Yeah, they're cutting horses and Calbred type horses and stuff. They're breeding. Sorry, they're breeding cutting horses to like a running type, barrel horse types. The ones you were watching.
Oh
they're,
yeah.
They're breeding them both so they can get the run, and then they're watching the cow and all that stuff now because it's a little bit of a horse race. Yesterday, them steers were so fast, and it took a really good horse to run them down. It's like all those guys that were entered had a chance to win. They're all good, but it determined who was on the best horse. Cream always rises to the top when it comes to the horsepower in that game. And these guys are spending $250,000 on one animal that could break its leg at any point.
Yeah, if he breaks his leg, I mean,
They get him insured, but that's
But still, like the amount of money that you're spending on it to get insured, and say
Try to replace it.
We're talking about your team right there. They got your back. You know, like if somebody does hit it, your outfielder caught it. Like he's got your back. This horse has your back. And if you lose your team that you feel like you can take on the world with, it's like,
it's like all right, now
punch in the stomach.
It's like my insurance will cover another $250,000 horse.
But now you have to find another team like
it's
that,
like
you know?
I don't know if this horse is going to operate the same as this one did. Like we don't have that same relationship. I need him to be ready to go for this next horse race or this next thing in 2 weeks.
I bought a horse, 4-year-old. Was at a trainer for almost a year and a half, 2 years now. We hauled it all the way to Oklahoma. It's been in Scottsdale. We took it all these fraternities, brought it back. He's crippled now. I mean, just like that.
Got a vet check. You know, he was a little bit
with Snoop Dogg too much.
He was a little bit sore.
Walking.
He was a little bit sore. They took him to the vet. He's got some major issues. Like he's not going to be sound for the rest of his life. He's going to have issues forever.
The horse is?
So Brandon invested all this money in this horse. not knowing, and then now like the horse is just kind of a yard ornament now. It's like
we're talking worth a lot of money to
Right.
worth a little bit of money.
he went from
and that happens fast.
$150,000 head horse to
Why?
nothing.
To
Just
nothing.
like,
And then how you just get that phone call? Like, all right, well.
So now, like, you can't just call them up and say, "Hey, I want to return."
No.
I have the receipt. I have a 30-day return policy.
And then all the time in the training, and all the miles.
and he's 5 this year, so he's gonna live still another.
Now I gotta look at his ass.
Years,
20
man.
years.
They live 20 years.
Man,
easy, you know
he's
what
our
I'm
new
saying?
mascot, all crippled over there.
Love the ladies.
That's the
thing
name.
I-
Love the
Good
ladies.
thing you know a guy that's got a lot of alfalfa hay.
Yeah, good thing. We're turning him out in the back 40.
Yeah.
Although Trevor Brazil, he's the greatest cowboy in our game. He's won 23 or 24 all-around world titles. He's the greatest. He sold, and him and Miles Baker, a partner of his, sold a stallion for, I think it was $3 million, like a share of him.
I seen the horse.
Yeah.
Solo
Buckeye
Select. Shout out to the Solo Select people.
Solo.
This is a part of it that I still don't get. A horse is a horse.
Yeah.
Like
He's
to
a
me,
stallion though, so he's gonna be able to.
Well, here.
is that one that can breed and whatnot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
This will help you. There's 4 of us sitting here. There's only one that's a Major League Baseball player.
they're all
So if we-
horses. But they're all horses.
Yeah, but every one of them can do a different discipline very well.
Yeah, but
You see what I'm
and they all have a mind of their own.
Right.
And if they want to turn, guess
They're
what?
gonna turn.
I ain't gonna do it. I'm sticking my feet down and I ain't moving. Like,
Yeah.
and now what? Now you got a $250,000 horse that's ignorant.
Yeah.
Or one that's
Because
crippled.
what? Because
Or one
what?
that's crippled.
Because what? Don't they like hit? Do horses ever hit like a teenage year? Like like that?
That-
You know how like
that's
that-
usually about the 3
Yeah.
year old.
That's
Right.
what my horse
Back in
is.
the
My horse
so
is
may-
and he's
so-
crippled.
So maybe he really ain't hurt. Maybe he's just at that
His
like
growing pains.
like, like
No, this-
Faking it
the
out.
sucker. He's
Yeah.
he's
He's the big old monster. He's real tall, and we had high hopes for him, but he was doing super well, and we took him to Oklahoma City and
he's
competed.
got one of the coolest names ever.
Loved the ladies, brought him home, and then got the news, and I was like, man, it's like,
nice.
oh, my kids, we're all the signs that we're trying to no.
Nah.
So I don't know what we do now. We just
Now we just kind of
look at them.
yeah.
So yeah, it happens, but that horse fraternity world, like I didn't know nothing about that world, and this guy's big time in it, and so I was like, man, I want to go. So I'm a fish out of water. They see me coming when I was over there. So I'm in Scottsdale, and they had all these jackets for it's called the Sun Circuit, and all this stuff. I told my wife, I'm gonna go buy me a jacket. I want one of those. So I walk in there, and the lady was like, oh, I was like, can I buy one jacket? She's like, no, that's only for the owners. And I'm like, oh yeah. And she's like, unfortunately, it's only for the owners, and you gotta. I was like, so you have to own a horse out there to get one of them jackets? She's like, unfortunately, sir, that's the only way. I was like, Brandon Brown, KB Farms. Look, oh, I was pissed. Big time at me like that. I got my jacket though.
How
Gotta tell
about,
a story.
you went to a horse show, right?
Yeah.
How was
I've
that?
been to a few of them. Well, my first one was like a little Saturday, if you will, Saturday night, but it was during the day. Had to wake up. To me, it's early. But to like my wife and my in-law, my mother-in-law, they're like early. Like you woke up at 7. Like we've been up since 3 a.m. Like again, 7 a.m. That's pretty early to me. So it was just real comfy. It was hot. It was hot, but like body just got all nice and warm sitting up there in the stands, and then all of a sudden them eyelids started to get real heavy. And I dozed off. The week of her state show where I was borderline getting an hour of sleep a night, maybe 2 or 3 at most. That was like the true definition of grinding, and that was like I don't want any.
That's
more
when
part
you
of
were
this.
said you were staying in the trailer.
Yeah, so I stayed in the trailer the first night, and I believe in the second night too. And then her dad said that if I wanted to take a shower, I could go back with him and go to their house. So I was like, I hadn't showered in 3 days. So I'm like, yeah, like I want that. And then I did that, and I got such a good night's sleep. So we showed back up the next day at like 8, and it was like an hour before they got the ride. And I was like, I think I'm going to do this again tonight too.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to keep doing this. Like, whenever you're done, I'm going to leave,
Mhm.
and I'll just be back in the morning.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
we'll just keep doing that. And she was like, I mean, you did just get 2 days worth of the experience. I guess that's fine. I'm like, it ain't. It's got to be fine at this point. I'm out. I'm leaving.
Do you ever ride? Have you ever been on?
No. So during that week, I actually her horse, and we actually started like bonding a little bit. Like I was like walking him around. I was taking him over there to go eat some grass. He looked at me like now he only knew me as the treat man. So they give him like animal crackers or carrots or whatever. So anytime that like I walked around the corner, he'd stick his head out and he immediately there he comes walking all up. So I'd have to hold my hand out and give him. I mean, their stomach's got to be like the size of me. Like one small baby carrot. I mean, what's that going to do? That's just going to piss him off.
Yeah.
Just like a Skittle.
Yeah.
That's it. It's like
He wants the whole bag.
I mean, like, all right, give me the whole bag. Now at that point, give me another bag.
Yeah.
Give me another bag. And it's like, okay, now I'm
Starting to
content.
feel better. That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you? Does she kind of travel around to a bunch of them all around there and do them horse shows? Or
The only ones that I've seen, like I've heard of her doing, are just like the like in state. She did the state show. She qualified for the world show in Oklahoma City. I think that's as far as she's went. I think so. Arkansas and Oklahoma City. I want to say maybe like Texas. That just, I mean, to me it kind of makes sense, but I don't know 100%. But I know I'm gonna say those 3 states for sure.
and you live here in Scottsdale, right?
Yeah, from Arkansas, but whenever I was with Arizona, I said I'd never do it. I said I'd never buy a place where I'm at. Well, my dumb self bought a place, but it turned out to be good because there's 16 spring trainings out here.
Yeah.
There's buku's amounts of like baseball, like specific like trainers. So I was like, you know what, like, and it's a good investment in Scottsdale. So I was like, okay, like I can be content with this.
You guys ever go to? Does she drag you into horseshoes in Scottsdale? There's always
This weekend we're actually going.
Oh
out.
yeah, that's big month of it. A lot of horse stuff over there at Scottsdale.
The one at like the
Westworld.
Yeah. So I want to say 2 years ago, maybe. I think we went to one up there, and she's like, "You see that guy right there? You see that guy right there?" I said, "There's 75 guys. Like, which one?" And she's like, "That one right there
One with the cowboy hat.
with the pants on." I'm like, again, 75 of them. One questionable, but 75. She's like, that's the guy from Yellowstone.
Oh,
was
Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor Sheridan, right?
It's like, oh, nice.
Cool.
I don't know who that is, but sick. Like, nice. Like,
That's not in. Your
I've never even
circle?
seen that show because you got a little circle.
Is that not in your circle?
that right? Now I'm trying to branch out and like she's like, you just need to be hip with culture and be hip with society and watch it. So I'm like, okay, I'll watch it. So we started watching, was it 1883 or
Oh yeah.
1923, something like that. We started watching
some Dove.
we watched one of them and it was like, I was like trying to follow along. I'm like, who is that? I just told you. Who is it? I'm like, so we're in episode 7 already, and I still don't know this guy's name. So I'm like, okay, clearly I'm not too interested.
That guy has really put ranching and cowboying and
He's
that
a-
whole thing really
Helped a bunch.
back in the mainstream.
Yeah.
You know, you hear guys doing interviews like Buster and all these big cowboys out of Texas, and you know, people thought, oh, Yellowstone bullshit, whatever. But man, he's kind of brought it back mainstream again, where it's injected some money into
Beyonce's
this game.
even wearing a cowboy hat.
I
these
know.
days.
She jumping
Beyonce's
on.
got the #1 country song in the nation right now.
You know,
Back,
Yeah.
cowboy style.
real quick, I want to talk about the Dominicans and like in your, in a lot of the Latin American teammates and stuff like that. Have you? I mean, I'm sure you had many Dominican republics and Puerto Rican stuff like that. I watched so many documentaries I've seen of how their life, their struggle, like man, it's unbelievable what they have to go through to make it just to the United States. You know, in a lot of them cases. There was that one documentary about the Cuba players that defect and stuff like that. Is there any stories or anything that you can talk about?
So I can probably one up that and say I've played in the Dominican for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Oh, shit.
This past season and in 2019. You see how they act before you ever go down there, and you're like, man, like, why is he just like going up to the lunch table and like hoarding a bunch of food, or like you realize like they make X amount of dollars, but half of that money they send back home, and you're like, why? Like you're sending home $300. Like that's not enough for
Yeah.
like a mom, a sister, maybe a girlfriend, a dad, grandma, aunt, uncle, and all that stuff. Like that's not enough. Then you go down there and you realize what they have to go through down there just to get to the States. And then you realize $300 actually goes a long way. Like $300 is like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Or you realize like that could feed like their city.
Yeah.
Like just being honest, like, and then like the food down there, like I remember I would get like chicken, rice, avocado, and a salad. And it would cost me, like here in the States, it would cost you $20. Down there, I get it for $6, and it's enough to feed all 4 of us.
Yeah.
And I pay $6.
Yeah.
Like the food, to me too, like the food just tastes way better. But you see like the fields that they have to play on.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
Like
the
what
facilities.
Like what they have to go through. It's like they're playing, like there's just like a dirt alleyway. I mean, to be honest, it kind of looks like what's out back. Like it's just like a really like uneven road. And some guy just goes and just lays down like a strip of tape and is like, here's our mound. It gets a little bit higher than what I'm throwing to you.
Wow.
And I'm just going to throw a bullpen, or I'm going to like, I don't have the money to pay for like weighted baseballs. So I'm just going to take a hammer and I'm going to put a bunch of nails in a baseball and I'm going to go throw it really hard.
Wow.
And then I'm going to grab a baseball and I'm going to throw it. And now all of a sudden I throw 100.
Yeah.
Like
just that kind of technology, like just like that weighted baseball,
just like
they have to
kind of like a little inventive, like
Yeah.
like they take what they have and then they just go with it.
Yeah.
Their fields are not anywhere close to what we have.
Mm-hmm. Even at our high school level, is like a major league.
They're terrible. Now you will
How
have
was
like
the living conditions, stuff like that for you, like when you played down there?
when I played for me it was great. Like I'm treated like a king.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at like the other guys and like you listen to how they talk and they're like, yeah, like you Americans, like you guys get to live like big leaguers, like we don't. So it's like they're still like they're treated like a professional baseball player, but that's like a two or three steps above like a normal person down there, which the normal down there is like just like a little shack. Like 10 is your door. Like you just drag it across and like that's your door. Like you honestly kind of feel bad. Like I watched a kid one day show up at the ballpark at 1:00, brand new pair of pants, like a polo shirt and like a white pair of sneakers. He was there after the game at 11:00, begging for food. The next day he had the exact same outfit on, but now he's got dirt on and all this stuff. The next day, the exact same thing, but now he's got holes in his pants because he's had to do something. The next day, like it just keeps getting worse and worse. And it's like this kid can't afford to like wash his pants.
Yeah.
And like mom and dad, like, and to be honest, like a lot of them might not have a dad because like the dads just like are working or like they just leave their life. Like they just don't want the responsibility. So it's like, it's sad to see like a real third world country and like know what they go through. But then when you come back here, you can almost empathize with them.
Yeah.
And then also like, I now realize like, so I was 24 the first time I ever went down there. I'm ordering food at Wendy's, right? Like really easy, like numero uno, numero dos, like just give me that. And I'm asking the lady, I want a hamburger with ketchup, mustard, pickles only. I have to walk around the corner and point at the thing and say, dos? No?
Yeah.
Yes? No. Well, I'll be darned. I got the exact sandwich I wanted, but like, I'm 24 years old. Like I'm a grown man and I have to go to another country and I can't speak the language. These kids are 16 years old and have never left, say, their city.
Yeah.
And now they're being brought into an entire new country and they're expected to walk around and live like us, like Americans, with no help. Like they don't have a mom, they don't have a dad. They don't have, like, the only person they have is, like, their other Latino friends.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, and sometimes, like, they might have, like, I'm hungry, but you're not hungry, so I'm going to go get food. I don't know how to order food. I'm 16 years old.
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do?
I used to go drink beer over here at the hotel, the Hilton over there. They had a little bar. Well, that's where the Cincinnati Reds would stay. so I got to know quite a few of them Dominicans in there, and I would ask them that kind of stories and stuff like that, and I could see it like man, just like little things like that, like like the little crackers and stuff they give you and drink beer. They would take the crackers with them and stuff like that. But I mean, I get it. I understood. This was the best I'd ever had it to go upstairs. I mean, he was talking to me about AC. This guy's like cold air.
Yeah, like and some don't even have like where we played. Like I had hot water. I've had hot water everywhere I went down there. But then you go to like the stadium, it's like they're like so thankful if they even have water.
Yeah,
because like
wild,
they might not have water at their house, or like my parents didn't pay for it, or like you listen, like you talk to them, you're like, hey, like who do you like? Do you have your own apartment? Like, yeah, I do. With my mom, my sister, my girlfriend, my aunt, and my uncle, they all stay with me.
Yeah, it's
like
tough.
Like, dang, like you got a pretty big house. Like, yeah, it's a 2-bedroom. Like, that's it. And then you look at, and then like you like drive by and you see like examples of like these 2 bedrooms, and it's like restaurant, cell phone repair store, apartment, restaurant. It's like apartments are just like kind of thrown right in the middle of the city, like right in the middle of things.
Yeah.
Or it's like right on top of things. So like like the square footage wise, like less than 1,000 feet easily. So yeah, it's like
they're just happy to get out of the rain in a lot of instances. You know what I mean?
And they're out and about all night.
Mm-hmm.
Food wise, I will say the availability for food is, I mean, I can get food at 1 a.m. I mean, there's fried chicken places wide open. There's there's.
And the food was delicious.
Oh, I've never had better fried chicken a day in my life. The grilled chicken, like the like a rotisserie type style chicken, the best I've ever had. If I could have that food that I had down there here, like as clean and as pure as it is, because like the food that they eat down there is like you want a piece of chicken? Let me go find a chicken over here pecking around in the woods. I'll kill it and I'll cook it right then and there.
Yeah.
So like you're getting like a really quality piece of meat. Here, like it might be like you got like a chicken farm or whatever, but it's like the food just it tasted way better. They seasoned it right. It was just the food was.
Well, we can't let you get out of here without asking you. Who's your give us like your who you watch play baseball, like who's your favorite like going right now pitcher? Like
pitcher? I honestly, I try to like look at the matchups for the day. So whenever I got released, I was like going through like looking at like all the teams that were playing, and I would find if there was a really solid matchup like a Scherzer versus Verlander, that's the game I would watch. But if say it was like the number 5 like just got called up guy, kind of a no-name guy versus this, I wouldn't really watch those games. I would try to find who's the best pitcher available pitching that day. And if I couldn't find any of those, then I would watch like the team so I'd watch like the D-backs because that's who I was with. Or I'd watch like the Royals because I still had a lot of friends there. Or I'd watch, Cleveland because like I faced a lot of those guys. So I'd watch that game. Like I wouldn't say I really have like a favorite. I would just say I try to find like the best game possible that day to watch.
Who's the most famous guy you got on your cell phone? Famous person you got on your cell phone?
Probably Salvo.
Say Brandon.
Perez.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
That's what's up.
You should have said Brandon Brown and got your wife some free hay for the horses.
Well, he just said said famous person. He didn't say like famous like rodeo guy.
Famous farmer.
Famous farmer.
Yeah.
All right,
We're trying to figure out our next podcast. Let's see, Perez, huh?
Oh,
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
All right, man.
Well, we
thanks.
appreciate it, man.
We'll let you get out of
Thank
here.
you so much.
Thanks for the
Yes, sir.
stories, though, man.
Oh,
Good
that's
one.
cool.
I'm full of them. I don't know if they're good, but I'm full of them.
Oh, we're
love
glad Anthony. Shout out to Anthony
Yeah.
hooking this whole deal up, and he's been cool.
Dude, I don't know what, like, there's part of me thinks that dude's going to retire and just, like,
Be a professional dove hunter.
Yeah, like, that's
I
what
think
I like,
he
go out,
could.
like, be a guide, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think that would be the dream job for him, just guide people in on him.
We were talking about love before. He loves that.
That's absolutely-
every day, all day
That's a
long.
love.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
Especially in the Arizona heat in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
That's a love.
I'd send him
next
over there,
level, dude.
and I show up. It's 1:00 in the afternoon. It's 129 degrees. He has his shirt rolled up, and he has a shotgun in his hand. I was like, "You can go in the shade over there and shoot these birds." He's like, "Oh, Because we had some shades over there, and he was out.
Yeah.
Crazy.
All right, man. Well, we'll let you get back to Scottsdale. We sure appreciate you
Yeah.
coming.
Thank you
course,
so
yeah.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
guys.
Cool. Thanks, sir.
Those are cool stories about the
Yep.
Dominican.